So here is a Civil War summary. It doesn't have all the battles, but kind of the main things I want you to remember. So causes of the war was westward expansion, slavery, states' rights, and then with the election of Lincoln, 11 states seceded. Civil War summary, it began Friday, April 12, 1861, Unions versus Confederates, and it started with the Battle of Fort Sumter. Then we moved on to the first battle of Bull Run, and we learned that it would be a bloody fight. It would not end quickly, and Southerners would fight hard. So now we're picking our team. We have the Union's generals, and then we have the Confederate generals. And I will say the Union did have a lot more resources. They had a lot more people, but one thing that the Confederates had was they did have better leaders. So we have Ulysses S. Grant, which was a harsh general. He didn't mind losing people. He was actually kind of rebuked for losing so many soldiers. George McClellan, as we remember, Lincoln called him the slows, so they just didn't have super strong leaders, but we did have new weapons and bad hygiene, which caused so many deaths in the Civil War. But then in 1862, Lincoln had the Emancipation Proclamation. He waited till the Union had won a few victories so that way they could have a little bit of a right to free the slaves. But remember, he did not free all slaves. He only freed slaves in the South where the Union had power, and he did this to cripple the South's economy, and he used his commander-in-chief power, not necessarily his presidential power. He said, okay, this is a military move that I'm going to free the slaves in the Confederate States. The Union lost many battles in the first 2 years, but then there were a few turning points, mainly two turning points. Boom! We have in July 1863, the siege of Vicksburg and Gettysburg. And then it would be 2 more years until the Union would win. However, one main battle was when Sherman took Atlanta. And that was significant because it helped re-elect Lincoln, because it gave the North a possibility of winning. And Lincoln was running against George McClellan, his general that he had released from being a general because he was not going after Lee. And so he was actually running as the Democrat against Lincoln. And finally, on April 9th, 1865, the war ended in Virginia.